Can I say something to all the people who thought I was a loser, Chuck?
He was one of the funniest men to ever grace the big screen, the lovable giant who could make audiences laugh until they cried in Uncle Buck, break their hearts in planes, trains, and automobiles, and inspire them in Cool Runnings. John Candy was Hollywood's king of kindness, a man whose comedy was as big as his heart. But behind the laughter and fame, Candy's real joy wasn't in the spotlight at all. It was at home. While the world knew him as the comedian who stole every scene, his wife and children knew him as a gentle husband and devoted father. Jennifer and Christopher grew up not just as the kids of a comedy legend, but as the center of his world. Candy once said, "My family is my life. Everything else is just icing." Yet when John Candy's life was cut tragically short in 1994, Jennifer was only 14 and Christopher just 9. So who did they become? How did they grow up in the shadow of a man the world adored, but they called Dad? And where are John Candy's kids now? John Candy's story begins in Toronto, Canada, where he was born in October 1950. His father, Sidney, worked in car repair, but when John was only 5 years old, tragedy struck. Sidney died of a heart attack. That loss shaped John for the rest of his life, giving him both a deep sense of empathy and a determination to fill the world with laughter. He grew up in a modest working-class home with his mother, Evangeline, and his brother, Jim. School wasn't always easy for him, but he found joy in performing. Candy discovered comedy while still a teenager, entertaining classmates with impressions and jokes. He once said, "I always felt like if I could make people laugh, they wouldn't notice how awkward I felt." In the late 1960s, Candy pursued acting at Centennial College and McMaster University. But his big break came when he joined Toronto's famed Second City improv troupe in the 1970s. It was there he honed his craft, working alongside future legends like Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara, and Rick Moranis. Television audiences first fell in love with him through SCTV, the Canadian sketch comedy show that became a cult hit. Candy's larger-than-life characters, from the over-the-top Johnny LaRue to the lovable news anchor, made him a household name. His fellow performers recalled that even off-camera, he was the kindest man in the room. Catherine O'Hara once said, "John had this ability to make you feel safe and hysterical at the same time." Hollywood quickly came calling. Candy stole scenes in Stripes and Splash before taking on leading roles in classics like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, alongside Steve Martin, Uncle Buck, and Cool Runnings. His performances mixed humor with heart. He could make audiences laugh, then break their hearts in the very next scene. And if you are into classic Hollywood icons, amazing stories, and newly discovered insights, then hit that subscribe button. We are on our way to 10,000 subscribers, and your support will mean a lot to our channel. But even as his star rose in Hollywood, John Candy kept his family close. He often brought his wife Rosemary and their kids to sets, and he was known to sneak away from glamorous parties just to be home for bedtime stories. Friends remembered that Candy's laughter was loudest when he was with his children. John Candy's life changed forever in 1979 when he married Rosemary Margaret Hobor, a Canadian ceramicist and abstract painter. Unlike the Hollywood stars he often worked with, Rosemary preferred to stay out of the spotlight. Their marriage was one built on love, stability, and humor, exactly the kind of balance Candy craved as his career skyrocketed. The couple welcomed their first child, Jennifer Candy, in February 1980. John was over the moon. Friends recall that he carried photos of Jennifer everywhere, proudly showing her off on set. He once joked, "I thought I knew what joy was until I held her. Then I realized I'd been faking it the whole time." Jennifer's birth grounded him, and even though his schedule was packed with film shoots, he did his best to be present for every milestone. 5 years later, in 1985, John and Rosemary welcomed their second child, Christopher Candy. By then, John was a household name, starring in box office hits and beloved comedies. But at home, he was simply Dad. He delighted in bedtime stories, pancake breakfasts, and goofy impressions that had his kids in stitches. Jennifer and Christopher's childhoods were far from ordinary. They grew up surrounded by movie sets, comedians, and Hollywood glamour. Yet Rosemary worked hard to give them a sense of normalcy, school routines, chores, and quiet weekends away from the cameras. Jennifer later said, "Dad was larger than life, but at home, he was just warm and silly. He made us feel like we were his whole world." Still, there were challenges. The demands of John's career meant long stretches away, and both kids felt the absence when he was filming abroad. But he always made sure to call, write letters, and bring back small gifts. Christopher once shared, "Every time he came back from a trip, it felt like Christmas morning. He made homecoming feel like a celebration." Despite the fame and the chaos, John Candy's greatest role was being a father. And when his life was cut tragically short in 1994, Jennifer and Christopher were forced to grow up quickly, carrying his legacy into their own lives. After John Candy's untimely passing in 1994, Jennifer was just 14 and Christopher only 9. The loss of their father was devastating, but both children grew up determined to honor his memory in their own ways. Jennifer Candy, born in February 1980, found herself naturally drawn to the entertainment world. Much like her father, she has a gift for making people laugh, but she carved out her own path as an actress, producer, and comedian. She has appeared in shows like In Vino and According to Jim, and she has also produced comedy projects and live shows in Los Angeles. Jennifer often shares stories about her dad on social media, keeping his humor and warmth alive for new generations. She once said, "I miss him every day, but when I'm on stage and hear people laughing, I feel like he's right there with me." Christopher Candy, born in September 1984, also pursued a career in entertainment, but in a quieter way. He became an actor and musician, appearing in indie films like Contracted and TV shows such as Where's This Party? He is also a talented musician playing in bands around Los Angeles. While Christopher lives more privately than his sister, he has spoken about the lessons his father left behind. In one interview, he shared, "Dad taught us kindness first. It didn't matter who you were or where you came from. He treated everyone the same. That's something I try to carry every day." Neither Jennifer nor Christopher is married with children yet, but both often speak about how much family means to them. They remain close to their mother, Rosemary, who has continued to live a private, quiet life focused on her art and her family. Through their work in entertainment and their personal lives, John Candy's children have ensured that his spirit never really left. They celebrate him not just as a legendary comedian, but as the loving father who made their childhoods magical, even in the midst of chaos. Even though John Candy's life was cut short in 1994 at just 43 years old, his presence has never really left Hollywood, or the hearts of fans around the world. His sudden passing on the set of Wagons East was a shock to millions, but the tributes that poured in afterward showed just how deeply he was loved. Steve Martin, who starred alongside Candy in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, said at the time, "In life, he was exactly what he was on screen: warm, sweet, gentle, and funny. I was lucky to know him." Dan Aykroyd, a close friend and fellow comedian, tearfully described him as one of the kindest, most decent men I've ever known. His humor came from love. In his hometown of Toronto, a stadium full of hockey fans held a moment of silence for Candy, a devoted fan of the Toronto Argonauts, the Canadian Football League team he once co-owned. Years later, in 2006, the Argonauts honored his memory again by wearing a patch with his initials, CAC, on their uniforms. Hollywood, too, has found ways to honor him. In 1998, his star was added to Canada's Walk of Fame. More recently, his children have appeared at special screenings of his classic films, with Jennifer saying, "Seeing Dad's movies on the big screen again makes me feel like he's still with us." making people laugh. Fans keep his spirit alive through annual tributes online, with planes, trains, and automobiles becoming a Thanksgiving tradition in the United States. His films like Uncle Buck, Cool Runnings, and Spaceballs continue to introduce new generations to his comedy. Director John Hughes once reflected, "There was a goodness in John that you couldn't fake. He didn't just play lovable characters, he was one." Even decades later, Candy's legacy is felt in pop culture. Mentions of him appear in shows like The Goldbergs and Family Guy, and younger comedians often cite him as an influence. Actor Ryan Reynolds, another Canadian comic star, once tweeted, "John Candy was one of my heroes. He had this rare ability to make you laugh and break your heart at the same time." For Jennifer and Christopher, these tributes mean the world. Christopher once said, "When people come up and tell me what Dad meant to them, it feels like he's still alive in all those stories." Today, John Candy rests at Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City, California. Fans still leave flowers, notes, and even VHS copies of his movies at his gravesite, small tokens of gratitude for the man who brought so much joy into their lives. His legacy is not only in the films that continue to make us laugh and cry, but in the way his children and his fans keep his memory alive. Not as just a comedian, but as a man whose kindness was as legendary as his comedy. John Candy's story is more than just the films that made us laugh. It's about a father whose warmth and humor left a lasting mark on his children. Jennifer Candy has built a career in comedy and production, keeping her dad's spirit alive on stage and behind the scenes, while Christopher Candy has pursued acting and music, carving out his own path, but always honoring the legacy of kindness and laughter his father stood for. Together, they've spoken openly about how proud they are to see their father remembered, not only as a comedy legend, but as the loving dad who made bedtime stories and family dinners just as magical as any Hollywood set. And now we'd love to hear from you. What's your favorite John Candy moment? The scene that still makes you laugh? Or maybe the one that touches your heart every time? Was it Uncle Buck, Cool Runnings, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? Or another hidden gem? Share your memories in the comments below. They help keep his legacy alive for new generations. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next deep dive into the real lives behind the legends. Because while John Candy may be gone, his kids and his fans are proof that his laughter and kindness will never fade.